Out on the far edge of human-controlled space, far beyond the crowded trade routes and glowing core worlds, there was a small colony called New Horizon. Most people had never heard of it, and the people who lived there liked it that way. New Horizon sat on a wide red desert planet, where the land stretched endlessly under open skies. There were no towering cities, no endless traffic lanes, no noise of billions of people packed together. Just scattered settlements, mining stations, and farming domes spread across the landscape. Life was simple. Every morning began the same way. Cargo shuttles lifted off from the small spaceport, their engines rumbling across the quiet air. Farmers walked into massive climate domes, where green crops grew in perfect rows under artificial sunlight. Mining crews rolled heavy machines into the red hills, chasing veins of rare metals hidden deep beneath the surface. It wasn't an easy life. The work was long. The pay wasn't great. Dust storms sometimes rolled across the plains without warning. Equipment broke. Supplies ran late. But none of that mattered too much, because this place was theirs. People on New Horizon weren't chasing fame or wealth. They were building something real. A future carved out of empty land. A place where hard work meant something. A place they could call home. In the evenings, things slowed down. The heat faded. The winds calmed. Families gathered outside small homes and shared meals under the open sky. Laughter echoed between buildings made of metal and stone. Music sometimes played softly from old speakers. And above it all, the stars. Out here, far from the bright lights of the inner systems, the night sky was something special. Thousands of stars burned clearly, brighter than most people had ever seen. Kids would lie on their backs in the dust, staring upward for hours. Sometimes they tried to count the stars. Sometimes they made up stories about them. Sometimes they just watched. It was peaceful, safe, quiet. And for the people of New Horizon, that was enough. They didn't know it yet, but everything was about to change. The evening shift was ending when Tyler Grant finally got clearance to head back. His cargo hauler, Atlas 17, was loaded with mining equipment after a long day running deliveries between outposts. The cockpit was warm. His clothes were covered in dust, and all he could think about was getting home, grabbing a cold drink, and calling it a night. As his ship cruised through the upper atmosphere, Tyler glanced down at the colony below. Small clusters of light stretched across the desert, roads faintly glowing, the spaceport blinking steadily in the distance. He smiled to himself. Yeah, not bad for middle-of-nowhere rock, he muttered. Then, beep, a soft sound from the console. Tyler frowned. That's weird. He leaned forward, tapping the scanner display. A signal had appeared. Unidentified. That wasn't unusual by itself. Sometimes stray debris or distant ships showed up as noise. But then, beep, 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 more signals. His screen flickered as new contact began appearing rapidly. 1, 5, 10, then dozens. Tyler sat up straight now. Okay, what? He adjusted the scanner range. The system tried to identify the objects and failed. No matches. No known ship signatures. No registry. Nothing. A cold feeling crept into his chest. Atlas 17 to spaceport control, he said, flipping open a comm channel. You guys seeing this traffic up here? There was a short pause. Then the controller's voice came through, tight, uncertain. Yeah, we see it. Tyler swallowed. Any idea what it is? Another pause. No, and we should. That was not a good answer. Tyler pushed his ship higher, angling toward orbit for a better view. The stars above him were sharp and clear. For a moment, everything looked normal. Then, space itself seemed to ripple, like a distortion spreading across the sky. Tyler's eyes widened. What the hell? A flash of cold blue light tore across the darkness. Then another, and another. Shapes began to form out of nothing. Massive silhouettes emerging from hyperspace. Ships, huge ships, dark, angular, and completely unfamiliar. Tyler's breath caught. No way. More of them appeared. Dozens, then hundreds. They spread across orbit like a growing storm, their black metal hulls reflecting faint starlight. Long, blade-like structures stretched from their bodies, glowing engines burning with an eerie blue flame. These weren't human ships. Not even close. Tyler whispered under his breath. Oh man! Below him, the colony lights continued to glow peacefully, unaware of what was gathering above. But that wouldn't last, because now the sky was no longer empty. For a few seconds, nothing happened. The massive alien fleet hovered in orbit, silent and still, like predators studying their prey. Down below, people began to notice. Workers stopped mid-task. Kids pointed up at the sky. Phones buzzed as images spread across the colony. What are those? Are those human ships? Something feels wrong. Inside the spaceport control tower, alarms started flashing. Unidentified fleet in orbit. One technician said, voice shaking slightly. No response from their systems. The colony governor stepped forward, gripping the console. Open a channel. A signal was sent out across space. This is the human colony New Horizon. The governor said clearly, unidentified vessels, please identify yourselves. Silence. For a long moment. Nothing. Then, every screen across the planet flickered. Every radio channel activated. Every device, personal, public, military, lit up at once. A voice came through. Cold, mechanical, perfectly clear. This system now belongs to the Zorvax Dominion. People froze. The message continued. Leave immediately or be erased. The transmission ended. Silence followed. Inside the control tower, no one moved. Was that real? Someone whispered. No one answered, because deep down, they already knew. Then, everything happened at once. Tyler's cockpit exploded with warning alarms. Police car's revolving light missile lock detected police car's revolving light. Oh crap! Bright flashes ignited in orbit. The alien fleet opened fire. Massive beams of energy shot downward, striking the colony's defense satellites. One hit. Gone. Another. Gone. Within seconds, every satellite was destroyed. The sky lit up like a storm of fire. On the ground. Panic. Those ships are firing. Get to the shelters. Move. Move. Emergency sirens screamed across every settlement. People ran through the streets. Families grabbed their children. Vehicles sped toward underground bunkers. But it was already too late. The real attack began. From orbit, plasma bombardment. The first blast struck the mining district. A massive explosion tore through the red desert, throwing fire and debris miles into the air. Then another, and another. Shockwaves rolled across the land. Buildings vanished. Entire sections of the colony were erased in seconds. Tyler struggled to control his ship as explosions lit up the sky below. No, 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 come on. He pushed the engines, trying to descend, trying to land, trying to reach anyone. But then, they came for him. Alien fighters. Fast, sleek, deadly. One locked onto his ship. Police car's revolving light, missile inbound police car's revolving light. Damn it! He pulled hard on the controls, the cargo hauler shaking violently as he tried to evade. But it wasn't built for combat. The missile hit. Boom! The engine exploded. The ship spun wildly, flames tearing through its side. Below him, the colony was burning. Cities in flames. Ships exploding midair. People running through chaos and fire. Everything. Gone. Inside the wrecked cockpit, Tyler gripped the controls, breathing hard, eyes wide with shock. This can't be happening. But it was. Above, the alien fleet continued firing without hesitation, without mercy. New Horizon wasn't under attack. It was being erased. The sky burned. Explosions rolled across the horizon like thunder. Entire district vanished in flashes of white light. The spaceport was gone. The mining fields were gone. New Horizon was collapsing. Deep beneath one of the central facilities, inside a reinforced communication bunker, emergency lights flickered red across the walls. Most of the systems were dead. Screens shattered. Consoles offline. Signals lost. But one station, one old, outdated system, was still running. The distress beacon. The station commander stood in front of it, breathing heavily. Smoke drifted through the room. The air smelled like burning metal. Around him, the last of his crew worked in silence. Oh, what was left of them? One technician wiped blood from his forehead. Another stared at a dead screen, hands frozen on the controls. No one spoke. They didn't need to. They all knew. Outside, through a cracked observation window, the colony burned. Flames stretched across the desert. Buildings collapsed into glowing ruins. Ships fell from the sky like broken stars. 30,000 people. Gone. The commander closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them again. Status? He asked quietly. The technician beside him swallowed. Defense grid is offline. No contact with evacuation ships. No survivors detected in the outer sectors. A pause. Sir, we're the last signal. The words hung in the air. Heavy. Final. The commander looked back at the console. At the blinking light of the distress beacon. This system wasn't meant for long messages. It wasn't meant for detailed reports. Just a short transmission. Something simple. Something that could travel far. He took a slow breath. Open channel, he said. The technician nodded, hands trembling slightly as he activated the system. A faint hum filled the room. The beacon powered up. Somewhere above the burning world, a narrow signal launched into space. Weak, damaged, but still alive. The commander leaned toward the microphone. For a moment, he hesitated. What could he even say? What words could explain this? There was no time, no space, no second chance. So he chose the truth. Simple, clear, final. Colony destroyed. A distant explosion shook the bunker. Dust fell from the ceiling. He didn't stop. Aliens. The transmission ended. The beacon pulsed once, then sent a message outward, across empty space, past silent stars, into the dark unknown. Inside the bunker, the lights flickered again, then died. New Horizon was gone, but its final words kept traveling, far from the burning ruins of New Horizon. Deep along the outer edge of human-controlled space, a small listening station drifted in silence. Sentinel Outpost 12. It wasn't important. It wasn't busy. Most days, nothing happened. A handful of crew monitored long-range sensors, scanned weak signals, and logged routine data. It was quiet work, boring work, the kind of assignment people joked about. Inside the dim control room, a young communications officer named Jake Ramirez leaned back in his chair, staring at a screen in front of him, half-empty cup of cold coffee, feet resting under the console. Man, nothing ever happens out here, he muttered. Across the room, another officer laughed. Yeah, welcome to border duty. Jake smirked, shaking his head. Then, his screen flickered. A faint signal appeared. Weak, broken. Jake frowned, leaning forward. Hey, that's new. He tapped a few keys, isolating the frequency. The system struggled to process it. Corrupted data. Signal degradation. Static interference. Probably just background noise, he said quietly. But something felt off. He ran it through a cleaner. The system worked for a few seconds. Then, audio detected. Jake straightened. Wait! He pressed play. Static filled the room. Crackling. Distorted noise. Then, a voice. Faint. Damaged. Colony destroyed. Jake froze. The room went silent. Aliens. The message cut off. No one moved. Jake blinked. Guys? No one laughed this time. The station commander was already walking toward him. Play that again. Jake swallowed and hit replay. Static. Then, colony destroyed. Aliens. The commander's expression hardened. Trace it. Jake's fingers moved fast across the console. The system began calculating signal origin. Vectors. Distance. Time delay. A map appeared on the main screen. Jake stared at it. His throat went dry. Sir. The commander didn't look away from the display. Say it. Jake hesitated. It came from the New Horizon system. Silence. Heavy. Unmoving. Everyone in the room knew that name. A small colony. Quiet. Civilian. Human. The commander crossed his arms slowly. Confirm. Jake rechecked the data. Ran it again. Same result. Confirmed. The commander toned. Send everything to Earth Command. Full priority. Jake nodded immediately. Yes, sir. Within seconds, the system locked onto a relay network. The signal was packaged, tagged, and transmitted. This time, not weak, not broken, not ignored. It carried a priority code. Omega level emergency. Across space, the message surged forward. Faster, stronger, direct, colony destroyed, aliens. And this time, humanity was listening. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, inside a heavily fortified mountain complex, alarms began to echo through the halls of the United Human Defense Command. Red lights flashed across the command center. Technicians turned toward their screens. Officers stood from their stations. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Priority transmission incoming. One analyst called out. Omega classification. That word alone was enough. Omega meant only one thing. Worst case scenario. The room fell silent as the signal was routed to the main display. A senior officer stepped forward. Play it. The speakers crackled. Static filled the air. Then, colony destroyed. A pause. Aliens. Silence. Absolute silence. One officer whispered under his breath. New Horizon. A technician nodded slowly. Signal confirmed. Origin matches New Horizon system. Murmurs spread across the room. That's a civilian colony. No way. This is to be wrong. Pull visual data. The commander ordered. Fragments of damaged footage began to appear on the main screen. Glitches. Static. Then images. Alien warships in orbit. Energy beams striking the surface. Cities exploding into fire. Ships being hunted and destroyed as they tried to escape. A family running through burning streets. The footage cut out. No one spoke. Some stared at the screen in shock. Others clenched their fists. One officer looked away. Those were civilians. A long pause followed. Then, the room erupted. We need confirmation. What if this is a misunderstanding? We should establish contact first. This could start a war. Voices overlapped. Arguments collided. Fear, anger, uncertainty. Then, a single voice cut through it all. Enough. The room fell silent instantly. Admiral Jackson Cole stood at the center of the chamber. Tall, still, calm, but his eyes, cold. He looked at the screen again, at the burning colony, at the people running. Then he spoke. They didn't attack a fleet. No one moved. They didn't attack a military base. A pause. They attacked families. Silence deepened. Cole crossed his arms. Farmers, teachers, kids. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Someone out there made a decision, he continued. They decided those lives didn't matter. One politician stepped forward cautiously. Admiral, we should consider diplomatic. No. The word hit like a hammer. The man stopped mid-sentence. Cole didn't even look at him. This wasn't piracy, he said. This wasn't an accident. He pointed at the screen. This was a message. A long pause. Then, he gave his answer. And now humanity sends one back. The room held its breath. One general spoke carefully. What are you proposing, Admiral? Cole turned. His expression didn't change. Full fleet mobilization. Shock. Immediate. That's insane. That's total war. We don't even know who they are. Cole didn't react. They already started the war. Silence returned. Heavy, unavoidable. At the far end of the room, the president of the United Earth government leaned forward. Her voice was steady. If we do this... She paused. What does that response look like? Cole answered without hesitation. We send everything. The room froze. Every fleet, every shipyard, every reserve vessel. No limits. No hesitation. One officer whispered under his breath. Damn. Cole looked back at the screen one last time, then spoke quietly. We find whoever did this. A pause, and we make sure no one in this galaxy ever tries it again. Silence. Then, the president gave the order. Approved. In that moment, humanity went to war. The order spread across human space like a shockwave. At first, just signals, encrypted commands, priority alerts. Mobilization codes. Then, everything woke up. Shipyards that had been silent for years roared back to life. Massive construction platforms lit up, their frameworks unfolding as new warships began taking shape. Factories switched from civilian production to weapons manufacturing overnight. Assembly lines moved nonstop. Sparks flew. Engines screamed. Across dozens, then hundreds of systems. Humanity started building for war. Old battleships were pulled from deep storage. Dust-covered hulls were dragged back into dry docks. Engineers rushed across scaffolding, shouting orders, replacing outdated systems with modern weapons. Missile factories ran day and night. Railgun arrays were upgraded. Shield generators reinforced. There was no hesitation, no delay, only one objective: prepare everything. In one orbital shipyard, a young worker stared out at the growing fleet. Hundreds of ships floated in formation, their metal hulls reflecting starlight like a rising storm. He let out a nervous laugh. Oh, what the hell is going on? Another mechanic beside him wiped grease from his hands, not even looking up. Don't know, he muttered. Then he glanced at the warships again. But whoever messed with that colony? He shook his head slowly. They really screwed up. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And the numbers kept growing. 10,000 ships. Then 25,000. 50,000. Every new fleet that arrived made the previous one look small. Command centers struggled to track it all. Entire sectors emptied as ships joined the mobilization. Then, the number passed 100,000. And still, it didn't stop. Carriers, destroyers, cruisers, dreadnoughts, ships of every class filled the void. The largest military buildup in human history. Finally, the total appeared on the Central Command display. A number so large it didn't feel real. 700,000 warships. The room went quiet. Someone whispered, "That's not a fleet." Another voice answered, "That's everything." At the center of it all, aboard the flagship USS Resolute, Admiral Jackson Cole stood on the command deck. Before him, a sea of metal. Ships stretched across space in every direction, forming an armada so massive it looked like a second galaxy. Engines glowed faintly. Weapon systems pulsed with power. Formation lines extended beyond visual range. A young officer stepped beside him, staring in awe. "Sir." He hesitated. "This fleet is insane." Cole nodded slightly. "Yeah." He looked out at the stars ahead, then gave the order, "Set course for the source of that signal." The officer took a breath. "Yes, sir." Across the armada, engines ignited, one by one, then all at once. Light tore across the darkness as 700,000 human warships jumped into hyperspace together. And far away, the ones responsible for New Horizon had no idea what was coming. But they were about to find out, because humanity wasn't sending a warning. They were sending a message far from human space, deep within a region ruled by fear and power. The Zorvax Dominion stood strong. They controlled hundreds of star systems. Their fleets were massive. Their armies were ruthless. Most civilizations didn't challenge them. They avoided them. At the heart of the Dominion floated a colossal structure, the Imperial Throne World Dock, a massive orbital station, bristling with weapons and surrounded by warships. It was here that the ruler of the Dominion held power. Emperor Vraxa, tall, armored in dark metallic plates, sharp features, cold eyes. To the Zorvax, strength was everything. Weakness was a flaw. And weaker species, they existed to be controlled or erased. Inside the Imperial Command Chamber, a group of generals stood before the Emperor. A holographic display hovered in the center of the room. It showed a star system, empty, where New Horizon once existed. One general stepped forward and bowed slightly. "My Emperor, the human colony has been completely erased." Vraxa leaned back in his throne. A slow smile spread across his face. "Good." Another officer spoke. "Our fleets destroyed their cities, orbital defenses, and all outgoing vessels. No survivors were detected." The Emperor let out a deep, satisfied laugh. "Excellent." The sound echoed across the chamber. "That will teach the humans to stay out of Dominion territory." Several generals nodded in agreement. One of them stepped forward, confidence clear in his voice. If the humans respond, our fleets will crush them just as easily. Another added with a smirk, humans are traders, diplomats. They talk more than they fight. A few chuckles spread through the room, but not everyone was laughing. A younger officer hesitated before speaking. My emperor, humans control a large portion of space. Their military capabilities are significant. The room went quiet for a moment. Vraxa waved his hand dismissively. Significant. He leaned forward slightly. They allowed a colony to exist this close to our borders. That alone proves their weakness. A pause. If they come, they will complain. They will negotiate. He smiled again, and then they will accept reality. The generals nodded. To them, the situation was simple. They had destroyed a small colony. Nothing more. Nothing important. Humans would react. Sure, but not like warriors. Not like conquerors. Certainly not like a threat. The meeting ended shortly after. Orders were given. Fleets continued routine patrols. The Dominion returned to normal operations. No urgency. No concern. No preparation. Because in their minds, the matter was already finished. They had made their point, and the humans would learn their place. Or at least, that's what they believed. Weeks later, deep along the outer border of the Zorvax Dominion, a remote monitoring station drifted in silence. It was old, functional, but nothing special. Its job was simple: watch the void, track movement, report anything unusual. Most days, nothing happened. Inside the control room, a Zorvax sensor officer leaned back in his chair, staring lazily at the display. Another quiet shift, he muttered. A second officer nearby gave a low chuckle. Enjoy it while it lasts. The first one smirked. Then his screen flickered. He frowned. A faint reading appeared. A distortion. Small at first. Barely noticeable. He leaned forward, tapping the console. Probably nothing. But the signal didn't disappear. It grew. The system recalculated. More readings appeared. Not one. Not 10. Hundreds. The officer sat up straight now. Wait. What? He adjusted the scan range. The data updated again. Thousands. His voice tightened. That's not normal. Sir, he called out, you might want to see this. The station commander walked over slowly, arms crossed. What is it? The officer pointed at the screen. Hyperspace disturbances, multiple contacts. The commander barely reacted. Trade routes. The officer shook his head. No, sir. The system updated again. The number climbed. 10,000. The room went quiet. The commander's expression shifted slightly. Okay. Another update. 25,000. Now people were watching. 50,000. No one spoke. The alarm suddenly began to pulse. The system struggled to keep up. More signals poured in. The number kept rising. 75,000. The officer's hands hovered over the console. This can't be right. The commander stepped closer. What's the final count? The system paused. Processing. Calculating. Then, the number appeared. 700,000. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. One officer whispered, "That's not possible." Another voice, barely audible, "That's not a fleet." The commander stared at the display, his face pale. "That's an armada." Before anyone could react, the alarm screamed, "Contact imminent." The stars outside began to shift. Flash, flash, flash. Space tore open. Ships began to appear. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands at once. Massive human warships poured out of hyperspace, filling the void in every direction. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, dreadnoughts, an endless wall of metal and light. The entire border of Zorvax space. Covered. One officer whispered in disbelief, "Those are human ships." Another stayed, frozen. All of them. The commander snapped back to reality. "Send a priority alert to the Imperial capital. Now." The message launched instantly. Across the Dominion. Fast. Urgent. Unavoidable. Inside the control room, no one moved. No one spoke. Because now, they understood. This wasn't a response. This wasn't diplomacy. This wasn't negotiation. This was war. And they had just realized. They picked the wrong species. The human armada didn't slow down. It didn't hesitate. It advanced. 700,000 warships moved through space like a tidal wave of steel, stretching across the stars in a formation so vast it blocked out entire sections of the sky. At the center of it all, the flagship, USS Resolute. Inside at Command Bridge, Admiral Jackson Cole stood with his hands behind his back, watching the tactical display. Red markers, Zorvak's defense fleets. Blue markers, human ships. The difference was overwhelming. Enemy fleet forming at the border, an officer reported. Estimated strength, 90,000 ships. A quiet murmur spread across the bridge. One officer whispered, "They're seriously outnumbered." Another added under his breath, "Not even close." Cole didn't react. "Maintain formation," he said calmly. Outside, the Zorvak's fleets gathered. Thousands of warships formed defensive lines around stations and asteroid bases. Energy cannons powered up. Missile systems locked into position. On the alien flagship, General Craxel stood at the command platform, staring at the approaching human force. His claws tightened. Range. 30 minutes to engagement. Another officer spoke nervously. "That fleet, it's too big." Craxel growled. "Hold your positions." But even he could see it. The human armada filled the void like a storm. Endless. Unstoppable. Back on the Resolute, Cole gave a single order. "Open a channel." "Channel open, sir." His voice echoed across space. Every Zorvak ship received it. "This is Admiral Jackson Cole of the United Human Defense Fleet." Silence followed. "Months ago, your forces destroyed the human colony of New Horizon." A pause. 30,000 civilians were killed. On the alien flagship, Craxel listened in silence. Cole's voice continued. "You attacked farmers." Another pause. "You attacked families." The tension grew. "You attacked children." The words hung in space. Then, "And now, we are here." The channel closed. For a brief moment, everything was still. Then Craxel slammed his fist down. "All fleets, open fire." The void exploded. Missiles launched in massive waves. Energy beams cut through the darkness. The first shots of the war lit up the battlefield like a supernova. But the human fleet didn't panic. It moved forward, perfectly coordinated, cold, precise, fire. The command spread instantly. And then, human weapons answered. Massive railguns roared. Hypervelocity projectiles tore across space, punching through shields like paper. The first Zorvak's cruiser. Gone. Then another. Then 10 more. Missile swarms followed. Thousands of guided warheads flooded the battlefield, overwhelming defenses, tearing ships apart from every direction. Alien formations broke almost instantly. "They are penetrating our shields," one Zorvak's officer screamed. "Hold the line." Craxel roared, but the line was already collapsing. Human carriers launched waves of fighters. Fast, agile, relentless. They darted between alien ships, striking weak points, finishing off crippled vessels. Explosions filled the void. Ship after ship vanished. Entire sections of the Zorvak's fleet disappeared in minutes. Back on the Resolute, enemy formation collapsing, an officer reported. "Losses minimal on our side." Cole nodded once. "Maintain pressure." The armada surged forward, like a hammer, like a storm, like something unstoppable. Within an hour, it was over. The Zorvak's border fleet, gone, completely destroyed. Wreckage drifted through space where thousands of ships once stood. Inside the alien flagship, General Craxel stared at the remains. His hands trembled. "We can't stop them." No one disagreed, because beyond the wreckage, the human fleet was still coming. And this had only been the beginning. The armada pushed forward into Dominion space. System after system fell. Defense stations exploded. Shipyards burned. Fleets were erased before they could regroup. Across the galaxy, others watched. Alien civilizations observed the data feeds in silence. 700,000 ships, one diplomat whispered. "We thought humans were peaceful. another said. A third slowly shook his head. They are. He pointed at the screen, where another Zorvax fleet was being destroyed. But if you hurt their people... He paused. They become something else. And deep within the collapsing Dominion, one truth became impossible to ignore. The destruction of one small colony had started something unstoppable, and now the entire empire was about to pay the price.